Welcome back to the IBSP. Here's your host, Boxing New.
Welcome back to another Q&A with the IBFP, and look, let's break it down honestly and objectively as possible. And the first question comes from my brother Usyk, and he states, can Tyson Fury win the rematch with Alexander Usyk? Now, this is an interesting question, and absolutely Tyson Fury can win the rematch with Alexander Usyk. This was a very close fight. Tyson Fury was in full control of this fight for the majority of this fight. You've seen the guy, going to the body, pumping the jab, styling and profiling. He hurt Alexander Usyk multiple times throughout this fight as well, especially in the 6th round when he caught him with a vicious uppercut, visibly hurting him. He was not the same, and Usyk was fighting from behind. The fight dynamic only changed when Usyk dropped Tyson Fury. If we're being honest and unbiased about it, this was a close fight at the end, and that's why people are like, well, the fight could have went either way. But absolutely, Tyson Fury has an excellent chance of winning the rematch by stoppage or decision, but it's still the same fight. It's still 50-50 because Usyk, by that same token, may still stop Tyson Fury, may still beat him in a decision. So the fight can go either way. It's still 50-50, but absolutely, Fury has an excellent chance of winning the rematch because this was a razor-thin fight that could have gone either way. The next question is from my brother OMG South Park, and he says, will you live stream playing the video game Undisputed with your followers when the game drops in October? Absolutely. So obviously this is the first boxing game that's come out in such a long time, and Undisputed will launch for PlayStation 5, Xbox, and PC in October. And absolutely, I would do this with all of my subscribers. We can live stream, we can play games, and we can keep that same energy with each other. I think that'll be great for the channel, great for everybody else. The next question comes from my brother Ronan, and he says, why does your pound-for-pound list have Inoue over Usyk? Usyk's resume and accomplishments in boxing has surpassed Inoue's now, and why is Crawford over Canelo? Did I miss something? So to break down this question or a statement basically is this. In my pound-for-pound list, I has Inoue number 1, Usyk number 2, Crawford number 3, and Canelo number 4. Now, if you have those mixed up any other way, I respect it. I have no hate, and I'm not mad if you have Usyk at 1. I'm not mad if you have Canelo or Crawford at 1. I'm not mad because, once again, the pound-for-pound list is subjective. One thing I will tell you is the reason why I have Inoue over Usyk at number 1 is this. Usyk's a 2-weight world champion. Inoue's a 4-weight world champion. That's one of the biggest disparities that we have here. And also, you see, Usyk won his undisputed crown at the heavyweight division in a razor-thin fight that could have easily went Tyson Fury's way. And so when you look at it like that, Inoue's last fight for Undisputed, this man knocked out his opponent, and it was not no razor-thin fight either. So, not only is Inoue going undisputed by demolition, destroying his opponents, but he's also a 4-weight world champion compared to a 2-weight world champion. I got a lot of respect for Inoue, and I got a lot of respect for Usyk, and if you have either guy 1 or 2, I have no problem. And I also have no problem with Canelo Alvarez being above Bud Crawford because Canelo Alvarez has a better body of work, a better resume than Terrence Bud Crawford, only beating 1 fighter. But Terrence Crawford has more actual accomplishments in that regard by being undisputed multiple times compared to Canelo Alvarez only being undisputed once. But once again, I have no problem. Whoever you have ranked, however you have them, respect to all of these excellent, great, elite fighters at the top of the pound-for-pound list. And the next question comes from Rose, and Rose states, should the Turk make Tank versus Loma, Crawford versus Boots, and David Benavidez versus Canelo? Those would be big fights. All of those would be the best fights for boxing, and those are the fights that fans are asking for. Fans want to see Tank Davis versus an elite Lomachenko. Fans want to see Terrence Crawford versus Boots Ennis. That's a fight people have been asking for again and again and again. People want to see David Benavidez versus Canelo Alvarez. That's a fight that's been building, that people have been screaming and hollering for. But what fans don't want is what the Turk is talking about. Canelo versus Terrence Crawford. Multiple weight class disparity. Makes no sense. The fans don't want Gervonta Davis versus Inoue. Multiple weight class disparity. Makes no sense. The Turk is acting like a casual in some of these moments. He's done a lot of great things for boxing, but now when he wants to make these fights like this, it doesn't make any sense, and I hope he comes to his senses or someone educates him on what fights the fans really want to see. And then let's get to the next one. My brother Alex Diaz, he says, when will we ever stop seeing padded record chumps in boxing? Usyk is a 2-time undisputed 2-division in only 22 pro fights, while we got clowns with 30 or 40 fights with no losses and never undisputed in one weight division. That's an excellent question. And the difference is, you see guys like Usyk and Vasyl Lomachenko, these guys have 300 plus amateur fights, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of amateur fights under their belt. So when they get to the pros, these guys are literally ready to rock and roll. These guys are ready for title shots. These guys are ready for the big stage. These guys are pushing their career forward at an accelerated pace. But you have to think about it. The average boxer doesn't have that type of amateur experience. So when they don't have that type of amateur experience, they're learning on the job. They're not only building their brand, they're building their resume, they're building their, their history. And that's their amateur career, but it's live in the pros. So you have to understand, a lot of guys don't have as many amateur fights, and they're building themselves up in that way. And that's the big disparity in the records for the most part. Now, there's some people that do a lot of ducking. There's some people that want to be the 30-year-old virgin. I mean, look at Tank Davis. Look at Frank Martin. These guys are basically 30 years old and been waiting their whole career before even stepping in the ring with an elite fighter. So those are guys you can question right away. My brother Tanito says, who's the worst boxing dad? And this is my opinion on it. Look, man, you can say Bill Haney, you can say Jose Benavidez Sr., but for me it's Teofimo Sr., and this is why. I think that, at this point, Teofimo, I have not seen any growth from him lately, and I think his father's to blame. I think his father tells Teofimo what he wants to hear and not what he needs to hear. When he's talking about Teofimo being robbed, when he talks about Teofimo being at the point where, he got screwed by the zone, instead of taking accountability for his actions, his dad only pumps in his ear what he wants to hear and not what he needs to hear. But once again, this is live with the IBFP, the Q&A series. We got to keep that same energy, and I appreciate everybody with the questions. And look, I'm going to break it down like this when we talk about every single thing on the IBFP. You see fans only want to fight, want to see fighters fight the best, and they want to see the best fight the best. I mean, look, and let me break this down a little bit like this. To go back to the earlier question about the Turk, look, at the end of the day, the Turk is doing excellent things for boxing, but people really want to see the Loma versus Tank Davis fight. That's what they really want to see. They want to see Shakur Stevenson versus Tank Davis. They want to see, Tank Davis versus the elite fighters. They want to see him versus Matthias at 140. But he can fight Mario Barrios at 140. People want to see these fights. People want to see Terrence Crawford have more than one name on his resume. And, right now it's only Errol Spence. Even by fighting Madrimov, a guy with 11 fights is not going to be another certifiable name on his resume. We need to see you fight someone that's highly skilled. And, at the end of the day, Madrimov is not that guy. He's not highly skilled. He has an enormous reach disadvantage to Terrence Crawford. So we need to see the best fight the best. And with Canelo Alvarez, he's pretty much cleaned out his division. And David Morrell and David Benavidez decided to move up to 175, which is unfortunate for Canelo. But at the end of the day, if the fight's still on the table for Canelo Benavidez, we need Canelo Alvarez to get that fight done. No one wants to see William Skull. No one wants to see Edgar Berlanga. Everybody wants the Canelo versus Benavidez, and true, honest boxing fans do not want to see Canelo but Crawford, because that makes no sense. At the end of the day, give us the fights we're asking for, not the fights that fanboys are clamoring for. Once again, it's the IBFP.